The Japanese Grand Prix, the last race of F1 2002, started before dawn this morning. Here's a second chance to enjoy the action from Suzuka. This could be an F1 farewell for Alan McNish, but in qualifying, the Scots in the middle of what has to be the worst smash of the season. The Japanese cameras failing to capture the full extent of the 170-mile-an-hour accident, flat out with the impact, but a wave from Braveheart McNish at the end of it. Hello there, welcome to our London studio. Alan McNish, very keen to take part in the race. He actually did the morning warm-up over there in Japan. We have just heard, though, that after seeing the F1 doctor, Sid Watkins, Alan McNish has been ruled out of the Japanese Grand Prix. In warm-up, though, obviously in great pain. We always feared that the injuries would hurt more on race day than they did straight afterwards. McNish did 10 laps and came 13th. Tony's not racing today. It's no great surprise that, because the corner where he came off is one of the quickest in the world, and it was a huge impact.
Well, it was a very violent accident. It snapped into oversteer very quickly, had not a lot of chance. It's a short run-off area in that particular part, and you can see the violence with which he sort of shoots across. He has no chance whatsoever, but actually punches a hole right through the Armco barrier, broke the support post. But because of the safety cell, Alan McNish relatively okay and able to wave to the crowd. Just look at that incredible damage, and it just shows you the rear impact tests, and of course the FIA very recently just making sure that all the chassis are being used are the ones that they passed, the designs that they passed. So safety first.
Okay, let's get the very latest news then from Suzuka with Louise Goodman.
Thank you, Jim. Well, as you said, McNish was very keen to race despite that massive accident in qualifying. He took part in the warm-up this morning, completed 10 laps, but he complained of feeling slightly dizzy afterwards. He was given the once-over by the team doctor, who felt that he would be all right to compete, but then Sid Watkins, the Formula One doctor, called him down to the medical centre for a further check-over. Sid felt otherwise, so on Sid's advice, the team have withdrawn McNish from the race.
Thank you, Louise. We hope to have a word with Alan McNish when Martin goes grid walking before the start of the Japanese Grand Prix. But they took, 1.25 hours to rebuild that wall. Michael Schumacher, though, always going to get pole. He always seems to be on pole in Japan, doesn't he, Schumacher?
Well, he loves the place. he revels in the place, and of course as the car's improved so much, he enjoys going through the S's. Every part of this circuit is a benefit really for this glorious Ferrari, but there was more to come, and he was developing the setups even as he went. Now I just wonder if they're going to start 2003 with this year's car, the 2002 car. It's certainly good. Michael Schumacher is saying that he wants to try and win the 100th Grand Prix for Bridgestone as a present for all the work that they've done this year, and they've been a major contributory factor to the success.
We'll be talking to Michael Schumacher in just a moment, but here's the grid. The Ferraris are up front, 6 clean sweeps in their all-conquering season. Coulthard, optimistic, looking good in third. The McLaren's in front of Williams. Sato's huge fan club overdrawn by a dispute involving boss Paul Stoddart and 4 other team principals. Right then, like him or loathe him, Michael Schumacher remains the best in the business. Another all-conquering season, and he is still hungry for more. After another pole at Suzuka, Michael Schumacher sat down and chatted to James Allen.
Michael, the word perfect is often overused in motor racing, but can you think of any way in which this year could have been better for you?
No, clearly no.
It's been a dream, really, hasn't it?
It has been a fantastic season, with many achievements, with many good races, with a lot of emotions, so it has been a beautiful year.
Let's talk about this F2002 car which is being worked on behind you. It came out at the Brazilian Grand Prix and it's only been beaten once so far, that was in Monaco. What makes it so special, and what's it like to drive?
What makes it so special is that in every area we have been able to improve the car from last year, and although last year's car was already a very good car, we have gone a step further. We have Bridgestone on our side, which developed very well together with us because we dedicate a lot of time. We have a special test car who does all the development with them, and all this just works hand in hand and is probably one reason of the success. The other thing is driving the car is obviously something which makes a lot of fun, especially here in Suzuka or in Spa, where the circuit is a lot of challenge to a driver to throw the car around, get it precise on the limit, that's great fun. That's what is racing.
Now, your relationship with Rubens seems to have got closer and closer as the years gone, but he's actually got closer and closer to you on the racetrack as well. Have you been impressed by his performance this year?
Oh yes, certainly. I mean, if you look at other moments, and especially last year here, he has been quite far behind the pace, but in qualifying in particular. And this year he has raised his game, and that's obviously good, because as a team you look that you have both cars together. Although I like to be in front, but a little bit is enough to do this.
And just briefly, let's touch on Indianapolis. You were smiling after the event. You were trying to do something, but perhaps maybe you didn't tell Rubens beforehand what it was. How do you feel about that looking back now?
I think what is important is that the end result satisfies us, and that's what it did. And as I said before, I sort of got in my heart, I got even with what happened in Austria. I felt I had to do something. And it wasn't discussed before, and I didn't feel being arrogant enough to discuss anything like that in front, as I knew Rubens was very fast in the race. And then, as it happened that I was in front in the end of the race, I thought that's the right opportunity.
It's been a perfect 10 so far this season for you, Michael. Here at Suzuka, you seem to be on something of a mission, looking for that 11th Grand Prix victory this season. Do you feel like you're on a mission this weekend?
It's less to call it number 11, it's more to put another victory in a circuit I love, for especially Bridgestone, which have done a special effort all the year long, and here being in their home Grand Prix, so we like to make them happy, because it's their 100th Grand Prix and it would be their 70th win. So it's sort of special numbers which we like to achieve.
I've covered your entire career in Formula One. I've seen you go through so many emotions, but just describe the emotion of becoming a 5-time world champion when it dawned on you.
I think pictures explain more than words, and if you look at my emotions and the way I have been after the race, crossing the line or on the podium, I think all those pictures do explain far more than I could put in words.
Now, this weekend Max Mosley has been here in the paddock in Suzuka. He's laid out for public display all these proposals for next year. Most of them, as far as I can see, seem to be aimed at closing down your advantage over the field. How do you feel about that?
You know, we have a saying in Germany, you eat nothing as hot as you cook it. Let's wait and see.
The old master chef with a touch of the Cantonars there. They're cooking up all sorts of changes, aren't they, in Formula One? Tony, what is going to change?
He's clearly been at the curry house. He would have only been eating the red chilies, though, don't forget. No, they are trying to cook something out, and you see how Michael Schumacher was grinning on that. I think they will change the qualifying. I think there could be some changes to aerodynamics. I think there could be some cuts in testing. Gerhard Berger, for example, is by that. But as we've pushed and a lot of other people push, they need to cut more on the aerodynamics. And as for the ballast, which is a weight penalty if you're successful, that'd be like saying to Michael Schumacher, well, you drive in these lead divers boots and we'll all drive in trainers. You know, and as for driver swaps, well, that's pure Disney. That's Dream Factory.
You can't actually see Michael Schumacher in a Minardi at some stage next season, then?
Not at Monte Carlo, no.
Good. OK, Tony, as always, we appreciate your thoughts on the Japanese Grand Prix. Email them to the ITV F1 website. We'll do our best to respond to a couple of them in our post-race show. Well, next, it's a little jaunt around Tokyo with another world champion, Louise Goodman, chatting with Jacques Villeneuve. We're counting down towards our 100th Grand Prix, the Japanese at Suzuka. This is very much the Michael Schumacher era. Before that, Mika Häkkinen had his time. In our first year, though, Jacques Villeneuve was the main man. Since then, he's battled on with British-American racing. It's 84 races since his last win, but he remains a huge talent. Villeneuve has been visiting some old Tokyo haunts with Louise Goodman.
A brief appearance in a Tokyo TV studio. First stop on Jacques Villeneuve's schedule when he arrived in Japan earlier this week. Tokyo is a city close to the Canadian's heart, and he relishes every opportunity to take a trip down memory lane. Jacques lived in the Japanese capital for a year back in 1992, whilst racing in the National Formula 3 Championship.
It was a very important year in my life because I grew up a lot in that year. That's when I left everything I knew, Europe, the people I knew, family, whatever, and came here and had to discover everything. So I discovered myself a lot, and that was great.
Discovered yourself in what way?
Just, I guess it was the same thing as going to university for the first year and being on campus, except that the campus was Tokyo and racing with everybody here. You would practice in the morning and you would all have lunch together, have an espresso, and then, time to go quali. Okay, see you after the quali. And it was like being it was like being at school basically.
Who were you racing with at the time?
There were a few Europeans. And sometimes we hung out with the big boys from 3000. Well, that was special. Like Eddie and Mika Salo. So it was fun. We were all having a blast.
So you got into the culture?
Well, the night culture, not the day one.
I've heard a few stories actually about the stuff that went on.
Oh, nothing too exciting. Don't worry.
What did you get up to?
Oh, nothing too bad. I was 20. So
Perfect age to get up to all sorts of bad things.
You just discover. The different aspect of life, that's all.
There was time to revisit a few old Tokyo haunts before making the short hop to Suzuka for the real business of the week, the Japanese Grand Prix. It's a popular race and Jacques relishes the challenge the circuit presents.
Actually, it's one of the last real track that we still have in Formula One. It is probably the most beautiful track we have. It's a lot of fun to drive on. It's exciting. And it's also the last race of the year, which is always a good thing.
4 years of loyalty to BAR have brought little reward in comparison to the championship success of Villeneuve's early career. So has he ever regretted the move?
It's the wrong thing to do, because there's more chances that what you would have had somewhere else would have been worse. So it's better to be happy with what you have and make the most of it.
But don't you look and see Michael Schumacher winning everything? I mean, you're a man who's beaten him. You know you can beat him.
Well, there was never the opportunity of going to Ferrari anyways, so it's not a worry.
But a lot of people would like to see somebody up against Michael, and we know that you could beat him.
Oh, I'd love to be in a position to fight against him. I would love to be in a car like the Ferrari. And to really to battle against him, though that would be a lot of fun. But at the moment it's not possible. So he's left alone up there.
He isn't going anywhere. Confirmation this weekend: Villeneuve will race for BAR next season. Let's go grid walking now with Martin down at the back end of that downhill grid. On you go, Martin.
Hello, Jim. Hello, everybody. Good morning. Yes, indeed. Here we are at the back of the grid. Well, all good things come to an end, they say, and of course this season comes to an end, and I wonder if it's the end of a few Formula One careers. We're right at the back of the grid. Just want to point out, Young is on 19th position. As you know, Alan McNish is not in this race. I hope to catch up with him somewhere on the grid. Alex Young, the driver, smartly standing over there in the shade. I wonder if we'll be seeing him again. I finished my last Grand Prix for Jordan here in 1996 when I finished 5th, but at the time I didn't realise it was my last Grand Prix, somewhat frustratingly. And therefore it didn't enter my thinking. I wonder what people are thinking on this grid today. Let's have a word. I believe Eddie Irvine is standing over here. Ed, word for ITV? Yeah, not a great weekend for you, but are we looking at your final Grand Prix?
It was a good weekend until the engine blew up in qualifying, but apart from that we were looking pretty good, and I think the race will be reasonable as well.
Yeah, and part 2 of the question?
Marty.
Well, I mean, we hope not. We would be sad to lose you because you've usually got something to say. But seriously, are we looking at your final start? And if so, what's going through your mind?
I'll let you know in Australia next year.
Okay, he doesn't want to answer that one. See you later on. Quite clearly, he's still hoping that he's got a chance of a Grand Prix next year. I want to find Alan McNish because he cannot start this race, and that's a tragedy for Alan. They've stopped you from racing. You want to race?
Yeah, straight away. There's no question. You know that, Martin. I remember watching you in Australia when you cartwheeled at the third corner, and it's the same situation. But ultimately, the doctors are there for a reason, and you've got to listen and abide by their decisions.
But why did they say? You went well in the warm-up. You seem fine. Why are they not letting you race?
I think they're concerned if there's any sort of aggravation of it over my knee over the next 2 hours, that it could cause some complications. But ultimately, it's just disappointment from myself, but for the team and also everybody that's came here.
But it's your left knee, isn't it? Which is a passenger. It's your right knee, is it? Okay, that's different then. But do you feel you can do this Grand Prix? Absolutely, clearly. And therefore, if you've got a problem, surely you can just pull out.
Yeah, adrenaline gets you through. And, you know, that's why we're here. You get pumped up over a few days. I felt pretty good this morning, got in and drove the car. I felt pretty well. You know, I think we're 12th quickest. And so, therefore, I wasn't necessarily expecting a problem for this afternoon. However, as I said before, it's a medical decision.
Now, I'm gutted for you, obviously, and I was just saying that my last Grand Prix was here, but I didn't know about it. We asked Eddie Irvine, he doesn't want to say. Minardi is saying they may not be able to race next year financially. Mika Salo probably out of Formula One. What's going through your mind right now? You must be destroyed standing here. Do you think you've got a chance? Is there a chance we'll see you in Melbourne?
Yes, there is a chance that we'll be in Melbourne next year. You know, I don't want to end my Formula One career on this note. You know, we've had a pretty strong season up till now, and I was looking forward to a strong performance this afternoon, but you know, I think there's quite a lot of question marks up and down the pit lane.
Well, all the fans back in the UK, I'm sure, feel for you. To you, Jim.
Thank you, Martin. Bitterly upset McNish ruled out. Montoya starting. He's equalled his worst grid position of the season. Massive local support there for Sato. Stand by then for your last taste of Formula One action until the spring. The Japanese Grand Prix comes next here on ITV1.